When you're playing a light gun game, how important is the actual gun? Is it just another controller, or is the gun integral to the overall experience? I reviewed Forever Entertainment's House of the Dead remake shortly after it came out, and came away feeling like something was missing. At the time, I put it down to the absence of any light gun options for this, well, light gun game. The closest you could get was gyro aiming, which just wasn't doing it for me. That said, I was aware that a PlayStation Move patch had been announced for the PS4 version, and I had also heard that the fan-made Sinden and Gun for IR light guns did work with the Steam release, so I promised to update my review once I had access to those control options. Well, the PlayStation Move patch is out, and I replayed the entire game using it to see how much of a difference it would make to the overall experience. A friend also, very kindly, made me a Gun for IR for my PC, allowing me to try out the Steam release with a gun. Let's start with the PlayStation Move patch, as that's the hardware that's more easily and readily available. Going in, I wasn't expecting much. I knew from my previous reviews of the House of the Dead 3 and 4 on PlayStation 3 using the same controllers that the aim would be floaty and inaccurate. I had hoped, however, that the ergonomics of holding a gun would go a long way towards tricking my brain and selling the experience. As expected, I did find myself relying on the on-screen cursor, which was often quite some distance away from where the gun was actually pointing, and it did drift off to the sides every now and again. I did have to have a second hand on the gun to reach for the buttons on top, namely cross to reload and square to recenter my aiming reticle. That did grow to become uncomfortable over time, however none of these issues are exclusive to the House of the Dead remake. I experienced the same thing in the PlayStation Move versions of Time Crisis 4, the House of the Dead 3 and 4, and both Resident Evil Umbrella and Darkside Chronicles. These are issues inherent to the technology itself, not HOTDR's implementation of it. One issue that did seem to be exclusive to this game was the cursor freezing and teleporting. This happened fairly regularly, and while I'm not sure how easy it is to spot in the footage, I could definitely feel it happening, leading to me taking a lot of hits and getting frustrated. The nature of the issue, how it locks in place before jumping to a new location, implies that the PlayStation camera is still tracking the move's motion, but the game gets stuck updating the reticle's position before finally reading the move's new coordinates. The other problem was navigating the menus. You press cross to confirm your selections, but this often failed to respond. I would have to press the button multiple times before the game accepted the input. Strangely, the same button is used to reload, and I never had an issue in-game. Every press of cross worked while battling the zombie hordes. The ignored inputs were specific to the menus. Now we could say, Sam, your previous experiences were on a PlayStation 3 using the Move with a PlayStation Eye. This is a PlayStation 5, and you're using the PS4's camera via an adapter. You can't rule out a hardware issue. Except that I can. Over the past couple of months, I've been getting heavily invested in PlayStation VR, and the tracking there has always been spot on. I've had smooth experiences through a selection of VR shooters on PS5, all of which use the same camera and Move controllers as the House of the Dead remake. By the way, if you're wondering what happened to light gun games, as I was a few months ago, do yourself a favour and grab a VR headset. They all seem to have moved to that format, and there are some incredible experiences waiting for you. What about the ergonomics? Did it still feel right, and does that still elevate the experience? Yes. Absolutely. I'm very happy to report that the Move is now, by a country mile, my favourite of the PS4 version's input options. For a casual player, when you have your mates round, that kind of audience, this is great. If you've played light gun shooters on the Wii and you were happy enough with how they played, then the PlayStation Move controls are likely fine for you. And yes, I will keep finding excuses to show you Ghost Squad footage because, damn it, you need to play Ghost Squad. What if you're more hardcore than that? What if you can only play light gun games without a cursor by looking down the sights of your gun and actually aiming yourself? The Steam version has you covered. While it does require a fan-made patch, you can use the Gunfer IR or Sinden on PC. My limited understanding is that, by default, the House of the Dead remake recenters your cursor at the start of every stage, and that would break your gun's calibration. I'm told that this patch simply skips that reset so that your gun stays accurate. Really, all I care about is that whatever it's doing, it works. For those who didn't watch the previous video, the Gunfer IR works by placing 4 sets of IR sensors on your TV or PC monitor. Outside of that, everything is USB plug and play. It just works. The aim is insanely accurate, and I can't praise the hardware highly enough. In terms of what it does for the game itself, frankly, it's nothing short of transformative. You feel like you're back in the arcade, having the absolute time of your life. It takes it back to being a game of skill, and the satisfaction of pulling off that perfect headshot is increased tenfold. This is the experience that I was craving! This was also my first time playing the PC version, and the jump in visual quality was surprising. Not only are the textures significantly higher quality, but there are lighting effects that are completely absent in its PlayStation 4 counterpart. I can understand why these compromises exist in the Switch port, but it does seem strange for that to also be the case on PS4, especially when playing on a PlayStation 4 Pro or PS5. The horsepower is certainly there. It honestly makes me wonder if the PlayStation version went out with the wrong build settings. I did encounter one issue in the PC version. For some reason, in the 3rd level, I kept seeing apparitions of enemies before they actually spawned in. It was only during this short segment, and I have no idea what caused it. Outside of that, though, I had a smooth, bug-free experience. The only other thing I noticed is that, despite patching the game to add move support, this now infamous "what happened" typo is still in the game. Come on guys, everyone and their mother has pointed this out in their coverage of the game, and you had to go in there to add move support anyway. How hard would it have been to have just fixed this while you were there? The PC version is, by a country mile, the best version of the game, and the Gunfer IR is, without a shadow of a doubt, the definitive way to play it. I am blown away by how much of a difference it makes. It reminds me just how fun the underlying core game is. This is the only way I want to play this game going forwards. I was previously put off the Gunfer IR because it's a DIY kit, and I don't even own a soldering iron, never mind having the skill to use one. I am lucky enough to have a friend who's into electronics and hardware projects who was happy to convert a PS1 logic-free Predator for me. Now, as he was finishing up the build, Gunfer IR did reveal that they were now taking orders for pre-made guns. So if you're also lacking the skill, and also lacking a very generous and amazing friend who I can't thank enough, then ordering one may be the way to go. It feels like this is the way the game was always intended to be played, and who knows, maybe that was the original plan. Maybe this game was supposed to have a light gun. Maybe they were going to team up with the guys behind Gunfer IR or the Sinden to deliver that experience to the masses, but the chip shortages, pandemic, and state of the world in general put a stop to those plans. The long gap between the game's announcement and release leads me to believe this could have been the case, as they had to unexpectedly pivot and come up with a new control scheme on the fly. This title was originally announced alongside a remake of The House of the Dead 2, my favourite entry in this series and my second favourite light gun game overall, only beaten to the post by Time Crisis 2. Let's hope that, if that project is still in the works, Forever Entertainment can overcome whatever logistical issues, lack of resources, or misplaced priorities they may have had, so that the sequel releases alongside an actual light gun. The House of the Dead is a fantastic game, and the remake is the best home version of it. But playing it on a PC with a gun for IR really elevates the experience from a decent effort to an absolute must-play. I just wish that experience was the default option and not a fringe benefit that only a select few will ever get to try out.